So this is just an example of what we're going to get up to by the end of this little video. So I've got my main trunk unwrapped into 5 sections. These little sections, these 2 sections here. Turn off the chicken one. These 2 sections here are the branches. Obviously on yours you'll have a lot more branches, or a few more branches than mine. And these 3 sections here are the main trunk. I've broken it up into 3 sections because it is so big and so long. So to have this be the full length would have me making it really small, and then I wouldn't have as much textile information or as much space to do texture on. Obviously if you've got a very squat trunk, you might be able to have it at this length, depending on obviously what your bonsai reference is. So we're going to get up to this point just to show you that this isn't kind of like a video trickery thing. I'm actually going to work off of this exact tree. All I'm going to do is one by one just destroy my UVs. So there you go, completely unusable. Okay, so what you notice I have done is I've actually separated each one of these branches off at the base point. So I've left this little ring of edges here. I've left them wherever the trunk, these little mini branches come off. I've left a little thing, but I brought them off, so I've got 3 separate objects. Again, being your tree, you'll probably have more. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to make this completely unusable by unitizing the entire trunk I'm working with. A unitize, what you notice inside our UV editor here, if I go into polygons and down to unitize, everything that's been selected is now every polygon, every one of these little polygons has been UV'd over this 1 by 1 square. So if I turn on checkerboard, you'll notice now that every one of these squares shares that UV space. Obviously that's completely unusable for this, so what I'm going to do is some trickery. So I'm not going to turn off checkerboard because that's going to get in the way, and I'm actually going to shrink this off to the side and just have my tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look around a while, and I'm going to actually find the longest or the most clear curve or edge flow I can for the tree. So I don't want to be cutting across, or I'd like not to be cutting across any of these little holes here. Obviously on yours you probably will have to, but if I can leave these fairly unaltered, I'll be happy. You might just want to, you know, if you can, you might just want to like cut across something like that, so you get like the bottom corner or the top corner of where a branch would sit, and then cut across that. But it doesn't mean that if you do cut across a branch like that you have to look for something else. It's just you just have to be aware that that is there. That's all. So I'm going to look for a nice long, or as uninterrupted edge flow as I can going up the branch, and I think it was this one. This went all the way around the branch, as you can see, underneath and around the top, around, and then it killed itself. I can't. Oh, okay, so it wasn't this one I'm looking for. Okay, is it this one? It was this one. There we go. So in this case, what I've found, what I've been looking at or looking for, is at the very end of my branch. I've been looking for an edge which cuts across this square at the very end. You can, if you want, if it's best for you, find one that goes to one of the corners there, one of the corners. But in this case, my best position was across there, going across here. So I'm just going to look where this starts off, and it starts off here. Starts off down there, and I made a mental note then of seeing where it actually came across here. It actually came across here, right there. So as you can see there, if I follow this round and round and round, it ends at the base there. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to separate out 3 edges of my top here, and that's because when I unwrap, if I don't give it enough cuts or seams to unwrap across or unfold across, the very top of my branch will get really distorted, and for me that's just good housekeeping. Always try and get your UVs as straight as possible, even if it is a small place like that. Just try to unselect these points I've accidentally selected. Keep it finicky, there we go. Now, some points there. So when you've found your edge you want it to cut across, or again in this case sew across, you'll see in a minute, just go through and just look for if you've accidentally selected anything else you weren't meant to. Okay, it looks pretty cool. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually move and sew yet. I'm actually going to reverse the selection. So I'm sewing everything but this center seam, because this is now going to become the seam of our trunk. So to reverse the selection, I hold shift and drag over the object I want to reverse. As you can see there, everything else has been selected except that seam. I can do it again like that. So this is what I really want. Okay, so all these faces are going to get welded together except for these center blue line. So if we go back into our UV editor, I'm going to go to polygons and down to move and sew UV, and then I'm going to click that, and as you can see there it gets very big because each one of these polygons is now the same size as our initial UV space. But if you can look, if we zoom out, you can see now that our entire length of trunk has straightened out, which is very cool. So I can grab everything in UV mode and just grab everything in UV mode. There we go. And just shrink it down. You can see there how big our actual shape was, so I can bring it all the way down here. And I can just turn on my checkerboard and I can see how the layout's working. So it's working most of the time, except when we get to this point at the very end, we're getting a lot of bad UV layouts here. So what I want to do now is just go through and maybe do an unfold, or maybe do some, well, what I'm actually going to do is, like you saw at the beginning bit, I'm going to cut this into 3 sections. I'm going to cut a main trunk section, and then the upper trunk section, and then the end of the trunk section, because that will then allow me to unwrap these very nicely without actually doing some crazy distortion or crazily upsetting the UVs. So I'm going to cut across here, like, if I think of the entire length, I'm going to take this first half, and then I'm going to cut. So I'm going to cut the entire tree in half, and then I'm going to cut the second half, then in half. So because this end half is going to be very small, so I don't need to worry about that taking up a whole lot of space. So okay, so I can just go to cut UV like that, and I've got my border edges turned on so I can see what's actually been cut and what's not. So you can see there that's now been cut. You can see there in the UV that's been cut across there, and then I'm going to find a halfway point here, and maybe where actually this big curve starts to engage, I'll cut across there, which is about there. Oh, wrong one. Cut UV edge. There we go. So now we've got 3 sets of UVs. We've got this top bit. Oh, there we go. Wrong selection there. This top bit, the bottom bit, and the middle bit. Cool. Now this bit looks bigger than this when it's not. It's just because obviously it's very small, but there are relative to each piece, there are more faces inside this, so it was unwrapped the way it was there. But this next step will fix it. So I'm going to see what a smooth UV does. So I'm going to select everything, go to Tools, Smooth UV, and start dragging it out. You can see there that I'm dragging the unfold out. You can see it starting to relax. If I turn on my checkerboard, and I'm just looking at this section here, and I can see there that it's actually looking rather nice. Turn that off. Yep. So it's mostly square. There's a few little bits of pinching, but I can get away with that. I can get over that. Second bit now, I'm going to go for the middle bit, which is obviously this section of tree. Do the same thing. We'll keep an eye on the UVs as we're doing this, so especially keep an eye on this bottom bit here. So tool, smooth UV tool here, drag out the unfold. And you can see that's really unfolding there, and drag it out a couple more times just to make sure there. Now the squares are very, very regular going around now, so you know that our UVs are nice and regular there. So now it's the next bit. So now we select this big bit and we do the same thing. So keep going, keep going, keep going. So this is going to do a really weird one. Okay, so that looks like it's not going to really work because it does flip on itself. So it is giving us a little bit of stress here. So I'm going to see what a unfold does. If I go to unfold, make sure I'm on unfold 3D. Send that back to 1. The iterations back to 1. And then just hit apply. There we go. So now you can see that's nicely laid out, and you actually see that all the squares are very irregular going around. I close that. But what you'll notice is the squares on this piece are bigger than the squares on this piece. That doesn't mean that this piece is bigger. That's because this piece on the left, the smaller branch bit, is covering a wider UV area, therefore the squares will be smaller. So I can start to scale this down. Rotate it so it's a bit straighter. And just start to scale this down. And by eye, I'm just trying to measure up these two being the same. And we can also check to see if these two are the same. So this bit, both of these will need to come down a little bit. Keep down. Okay. So say about that. That's about where the scaling looks cool to me. Let's check our UVs there. Yep. And there we go. So that's all three of my little parts unwrapped. My trunks unwrapped. Fairly simple. It's just a few steps. So if you remember, step 1 is to unitize everything. Selecting the entire mesh, going to unitize. Step 1 is separating off the branches. So we're just dealing with the main trunk. Step 2, unitize everything. Step 3, select the edge loop, the edge ring, or the row of edges. You want to actually have your seam across. Okay, so find that one. Find the point you want your seam to be on, and then polygon. Shift and then drag a selection box over everything so it reverses the selection. Polygon, move, and show you these. And then that should give you that really long strip, really big strip. So just scale that down, and then you would separate into 3 sections. If you had something that was like mine, like a really long one, especially if it's really bendy, you'd need to separate it out. And then you can use the tool smooth UV or the polygon unfold UV 3D to just smooth them out. Keep always checking on the checkerboard to see what's happening, and making sure that the checkerboard on each one of them is relatively the same size, as close as you can get it. Okay, so I'm just gonna fit all these inside my UV space. And make sure I, just crowd them together a little bit, so I'm kind of utilising the shape a bit more. So if I had more branches on here, I could start fitting branches down here, alongside here, obviously in between these little slots here. Okay, so I'll bring back my other branches. So as you can see there, these are both absolutely unusable. So for these, what I might do is I could try an automatic unwrap, but it's going to give me some real difficult things to work with that might, stress me out a little bit. Or I might do something like a planar unwrap. So I just look at it from one direction like that. Again, find a center seam that I want to unfold against. Like that. That's going all the way around. So I'd have to find one on just one side, doing the exact same thing as I've done with the other. Just finding that center seam. And then unfold that. And I probably wouldn't do the unitize and then unfold. You could do, by all means. But for something so small, you could just do a standard, just select all them edges going up, which can be a little bit of a stress because it keeps wanting to select things behind. Keep going up and up and up and up and up. See if I just select something back there. No, 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 no. You gotta make sound effects when you're doing it as well. And then select the top. So this would be the point where you put your music on, you just kind of zone out and do whatever. Oh, I do that one then. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. So I've got all them edges selected that I want to cut across, and I will cut across them. So you can see they're nice and thick. And then I do something like maybe see what a unfold UV does. Okay, so that almost takes it the full way. That almost does what I want it to do. Not quite. So I'll do the unfold 3D again. Nice. That gives me a really nice unwrap now. If I just check my UVs on this, yep, they're looking okay. Now, they do kind of look a little bit bendy here. You've got to remember that if we texture this on a flat surface, then it's naturally going to bend across there. You just got to be a bit aware about that. So I'll just turn on that. I might actually run a smooth UV over this again, just to give it an extra little bit of a push to smoothen out. There we go. Go to the side. And then just do the exact same thing on this one. There we go, so I can follow that round. Into there. Okay, same thing with that one. Go to the edge, make sure edge is on. Go to polygon, unfold UV edge. Unfold, sorry. And then, oh, so that, I could probably do some sewing back here. Oof, there you go. And then I can hit that with a little bit of a smooth UV tool, just to help it along a little bit. There we go. So at that point, all I have to do is just start fitting these together. Obviously my branches are a little bit too big relative to my main branch, so I can scale them down, fit them in different places. Obviously I would unwrap everything first and then make sure all the UV squares are relatively the same size, and then I'd fit it all together so that you can then go on and texture in it and then apply it to your model. So that's it for the bonsai tree. Obviously remembering your texturing basics, colour first, detail second, so make sure that your colours are working. For your bowl, make sure you're texturing that as well. Make sure you unwrap that for your little ground plane as well. Make sure you're texturing that. And just take your time, and if you're struggling or anything like that, send me an email. Obviously I'm always available for emails, and I'll see what you guys have resulted when the assignment ends.